Woodblock printmaker Dave Bull back again with our next Great Wave video update. This video is coming to you quite a bit later than I had planned. It's not that there's been any special problems with the work, it's just that there is an awful lot of things going on here these days, and are there ever, and I just can't dedicate myself to this one job, I'm sorry. Anyway, the theme of today's video is of course going to be the carving process itself, and I've tried to arrange something a little bit special this time. As you saw at the end of the previous video, I usually sit at my carving bench and look down onto the block through a round lens that's placed over there. And I thought this time when I made the video I would arrange the camera so that it too looks down through that lens. But I couldn't get it to work. I mean, there's just no way I can see what's going on at the same time the camera sees what's going on. So I've tried something a bit different this time. I've gathered together some fairly non-traditional tools, arranged them around my workbench, and set it up in a way that should give you a pretty special, spectacular view of what's going on. Let me show you how it's going to work. My normal Canon camera simply won't focus close enough to the work, so I've switched to using this handy cam, and I've got it rigged on an arm extending over the bench to where it almost touches the block. And up here in place of my normal round lens, I'm now trying a Meiji microscope, so both the camera and I are going to really get up close this time. And this MacBook, it takes the output from the camera, and I will then later work with iMovie to edit the resulting clips. Here's the view of how it all comes together. It's a bit cramped back there, but it's taken a bit of time to get used to this Meiji microscope, but boy oh boy, it's so nice being able to see things up close. And I think that you should enjoy too, having a look at this. So, let me stop talking and let's have a go at this. I said no talking, but there's just too many things to explain. Do you see here how there's already one cut has been made in the waste wood area here? That's so that when I come to do the main cut, the one you're seeing now, the wood is free to move out of the way, and as a result, the wood that will be left behind is less stressed and allows me to make this cut much more cleanly. It's called stebori, throwaway carving. And keeping the knife razor sharp is of course absolutely essential for this work. If I let it get dull at all, it starts to tear the wood. And I don't know if you can really hear it in these video clips, but it just goes slice, slice, slice. And just wonderful to hear it cut its way through the wood. You might perhaps notice that I'm carving just sort of one side, the side and bottom of each one of these white bubbles of foam that will appear on the waves. And when I've done that, I'll later turn the block around to the other side. And this is not the way it was done in the old days. A carver with pride would put the block down on his bench and never rotate it. He would cut all sides of every shape that was in that whole block without turning the block. I do not have that skill. Just no way about it. I said back at the beginning of this video that there have been no problems with the carving work, but that's not strictly true. I had done no more than a couple of days carving on the block when I realized that I did indeed have a problem. The wood I got had been supplied to me as a good strong piece suitable for key block carving, but once I got a knife into it, I found that it didn't seem really very strong at all. I kept at it, not really have any option, but after a couple of days I realized I could not continue with this. The wood just does not have the density required to make a good, strong key block. And when you consider that we're going to have to make at least 200 copies of this print to satisfy the Kickstarter backers, and then hundreds more for the people who are just pouring their requests into my inbox every day, I had no choice but to take this block and cut and run. So I headed back to my Ome workshop, where all my old blocks are stored, hunted around a bit, and pulled out one of the old blocks I used for one of the initial prints in my 100 Poets series many years ago, and which had been used on only one side. It was a block supplied to me by the then last surviving block-making family. This would be back in 1989. And as soon as I unwrapped it and picked it up, I felt a kind of nostalgic rush. Yes, I remember now. This is what good blocks feel like. It's heavy. It's dense. It even has a nice ring to it. So I taped over the back side that I used all those years ago, prepared a new key block tracing, pasted it down, and got back to work starting again from the beginning. I've now come this far. The wave itself is finished, and now I'm ready to go down towards the next place of the print. It feels great to be carving on such a nice piece of wood, and it's made me even more determined that myself and a couple of the staffers, as soon as we get some time for it, we are going to get out to some lumber yards and try and source some better wood, because that stuff we're receiving now has just become completely intolerable. Anyway, enough of that. My carving is proceeding along steadily, and I'll bring you another report quite soon, I think. I think that's enough for tonight. Thank you again for watching. As for our traditional ending scene for these videos, I have something there also a little bit different for you today. Last Friday morning, it was a nice clear day, and we had the shop window open, the first sort of spring weather day this year. And we heard some drumming and a kind of chanting from somewhere up the street. That's the only hint I need, so I grabbed my camera and headed outside to see what was going on. I headed over to the Nakamise, the row of shops leading up to Sensoji, the main temple of this area. It's always very crowded. But the visitors today, mostly from Shanghai I think, the visitors today will see something a little bit unusual. I heard the music coming, so I waited a bit until they got a bit closer. And here they come. It's a procession. And actually, a lot of these people are pretty straight-faced, not seem to be having too much fun. This is not a Matsuri or festival. It's a procession for a well-known kabuki actor who has just made a name change. Here we see they've stopped for a moment, and a gang of press and TV and all these people have rushed in to take pictures, and I couldn't even see what was going on. But reading the sign, I learned that Nakamura Ganjiro IV is the new name for this man, who is a very well-known kabuki actor. And he and his troupe and a great many of his fans are headed to the temple to pay their respects after this name change. You can hear the fans shouting his trademark phrase. Members of his troupe, I presume, his family perhaps, his acting troupe. And there they go up towards the temple. Just another day in Asakusa.